I'm Ryan Walters, that other podcast host that you hate the most, and you're listening to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix.
It is Saturday, September 16th, 2023, 8:01 a.m. We are just slightly behind, Josh, but I hope the people will forgive us. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast. I am one of your lovely hosts, the Garlic Johnson. We are joined, as always, by our other lovely hosts, the Joshua Mitchell. Josh, say hi to the folks out there. Oh, you beat me to it. We appreciate everyone who chats along with us in the Discord. We again had a lively bunch for the Thursday night game where the Vikings were getting throttled, just the way she goes sometimes, but we appreciate that. We also have the segment start times down in the description below, and then we appreciate at Levi Oki illustration on Instagram for all the beautiful art you can see. Josh, how you doing?
Darn. How are you, Gar?
You know what? I'm doing okay. Just oh my god, what just happened? I'm doing average at best. Yeah, that's the way she goes sometimes, Josh. Can't win them all. But
try.
Yeah. Today's show, he didn't want it to be. We don't have it fully prepared, but today's show was brought to us by Basement Studio Productions. I don't know. We'll and/or Panic Man Walters. He has sponsored the show right before the show started, so we were not prepared to announce that. But you know what? Shout out to him. Josh, anything cool or interesting happen in your life between Tuesday and now? I mean, give the people something. Give them at least a nibble.
Well, Nikita and I painted our one of the rooms in our basement as we're getting our basement finished. So yesterday we did that. And everybody knows that the best way to paint is with a big open can of paint, some rollers in an enclosed room, and with no airflow. So let's just say that I was seeing sound and smelling color.
Brother, get a little high on the fumes, dude. High in your supply.
Sure.
What color did we go with?
It's like a grayish, brownish. I don't know. Yes, it's a color.
What do you know, Josh?
I know that using a roller is much more efficient than using a brush when you're painting large areas of the wall. When you have a lack of light supply in the corners, the paint itself may look like it's applied, but it's not necessarily applied. So when you come down the next day, 15 minutes prior to a podcast, and you look at it, you go, uh-oh, I realize you have some touch-ups to do. I know that if you are a Vikings fan, you're probably pretty sad right now because your team sucks. You're 0-2. The only team with a win in our podcast fandom base is mine, because the Steelers stink, the Bengals stink, the Vikings stink, and the rest of the team stink.
Didn't the Colts get a win? Or did the Colts lose? I just
assume the Colts lost.
I thought they won, but what do I know?
No, they lost.
Fuck.
I remember watching that because they had it like on the goal line and
better than people expected. How's that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Josh, you ready to get into the meat and potatoes of our Saturday morning show? It's been a while since we've done a proper Saturday morning show. I know we've been podcasting on Saturday mornings within the past month, just giving the people some bits, but we are here and we are ready. And the Saturday morning show, for people who don't remember, almost all of it is dedicated to start and sit. Real simple. I didn't go with a obnoxious rebrand like Hogs at the market or anything like that. We'll just keep it simple. We'll keep it semi-profesh. We're just doing starts and sits. We've got 5 different categories here. Walters has already hit us with one in the chat. We appreciate that. But yeah, so for future Saturday mornings, if you guys want to wake up with us or hit us with it on Thursday or Friday, if you got any start sits, Josh and I will sit here. We'll analyze it for a bit because that's pretty much what the whole Saturday show is about, is getting you ready for the slate of games on Sunday. Without further ado, Josh, who do we got in our first little start sit decision here?
We've got the nickname-worthy quarterbacks, the Brockness Monster, Brock Purdy at Los Angeles Rams, or the Love Boat, Jordan Love at Atlanta.
The Brock Lobster, dude? Well, Josh,
Brockness Monster. I was going to name the category I love Brock and Roll because it's a combination of both names, but we don't play in 2 quarterback leagues because that's silly.
All right. Well, I guess I'll go ahead. I mean, you and I both play in a 2-quarterback league together.
I mean, Superflex 2-quarterback, it's a difference.
Okay. Excuse me, Josh. So, I mean, obviously Brock Purdy, from like a football perspective, he looked really good. From a fantasy perspective, he's a little more pedestrian. He had about 17 points. Your scoring system could differ a bit, but 17 points for most people in most leagues for Brock Purdy against Pittsburgh, and they're playing at Los Angeles Rams. The 49ers have had great success over what the fuck's his name? Michael Shanahan? Is it Mike Shanahan? Or is it
the Rams?
No, but what's the kid's name? Mike Shanahan's the legendary coach. Why can't I think of is it just also Shanahan? I know it's Shanahan, but what's his first name?
Bruce?
It's not Josh. Come on. Anyways, the 49ers have had great success over the Rams, over Shanahan's reign. And I want to expect, Brock Purdy to light it up from a fantasy perspective. I think somewhere between 15 and 18 is probably reasonable. So, even though the 49ers are more than likely going to win that game, is it going to be a great fantasy performance? Probably not. However, you look at Jordan Love. Sure, he's playing Chicago, potentially one of the worst teams in the league again. They won the first overall pick last year. He put up 23 points playing Atlanta, another team that most people aren't thinking big things will come from this year. We could see Jordan Love putting up another 20-plus point performance. I think between the start sit, I've had a bunch of Coke, but Dobbs is my call. We'll have to remember that later. I wish I'd had that as a sounder, dude. But yeah, I mean, Jordan Love seems like the obvious pick here, Josh, but maybe you know something I don't know for the start sit between the Brock Lobster and J-Lo.
Well, see, I have a feeling with Atlanta being a run-first offense, time of possession is going to be one of those things. Defense for the Green Bay Packers hasn't necessarily always been so good against the run. So it could be a very lopsided time of possession game in which Jordan Love doesn't have opportunity to throw the ball more. Aaron Jones being out means Aaron Jones likely being out. I did see he's projected 0 in some of my lineup. So it's, but then they say that he's still questionable technically. It's one of those things where I don't know if he's going to have. He'd have to make the most of his opportunities. Brock Purdy, on the other hand, going up against the Los Angeles Rams, who chucked the rock around a lot last week, and he's going to have some opportunity, a little bit more opportunity. So it's a tough call. That's kind of why I put this in there. But I'm going to lean Brock Purdy, even though I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, I had the quarterback wasteland where my quarterback scored sub 10 in the Hidden Oaks League almost every single week except maybe 2. And this year, I'm starting off with a solid 0-point average out of my quarterbacks. And so I have Brock Purdy in my starting line. But you got 0 points. And so I do have Brock Purdy in my starting lineup there. So take that into consideration. But I'm going to lean. I'm going to lean for the Purdy fly for a white guy.
Okay. I mean, so I think the bit last year, if I remember correctly, and we could just change the bit. We don't have to do exactly what we did last year. I don't understand why soda would affect decision-making, Walters. Oh, my God. I don't know. So I think our deal was we came to a consensus. Do we want to push for consensus? Because I still think Jordan Love. But if you feel much more strongly about Purdy, I'll ride with you. But I would still vote Love if it were just my decision alone.
Well, we can do it separate this time.
All right. I'm a Love guy.
All right. Moving on to... to nothing apparently. To the same team running backs, we've got Dalvin dead in the water Cook at Dallas versus Brees. I'm still recovering. Wink, wink. Hall. He's
on the
Dallas.
snap count, bro. Salah came back out and said it, dude.
So who do you got, guard? Are you going to stick with the old fave Dalvin Cook? Are you still tooting that horn, or are you going to go with Brees Hall monitor?
I mean, I do think that the green script kind of got flipped on its head last week with Aaron Rodgers going down literally the first series. He had that beautiful moment where he's running the flag onto the field, 9-11, 2 New York teams, blah, blah, blah. We get it. And then he's injured immediately. So I do think the game script got screwed up a bit. I think we were probably going to see much more Dalvin than we did see. So he only had, depending on your scoring settings, he only had 8.9 points, sub 10 points for sure in almost every league. Did have 3 receptions, so that you got a little bit of a boost in PPR. Breece Hall, we saw him rock. I mean, he already had 127 yards on the ground. He had two targets, 1 reception. Sorry, my eyes are just fucking up this morning. Did have a fumble, but did not lose the fumble, so depending on your scoring settings there. But, between these two, I'm picking Breece Hall again. The dude looked magic. Even on a pitch count, he took, only 31% of the snaps. I don't have an exact snap count in front of me. But, Breece Hall would be my pick for sure. I love Dalvin Cook. We should see more of him this week. He got 50% of the snaps last week, but Breece Hall looked electric. He did not look like there were any limitations, really. They're probably just being extra cautious because they don't want anything to happen to him, which I understand and I respect. They brought in Dalvin. But Breece Hall all the way for me.
Yeah, Breece Hall is going to be my pick as well. I've said Dalvin's cooked for the last couple of years. Last year, a little bit more. This year, I watched him. He has cement shoes, so I'm going to go with Breece Hall.
I mean, I don't appreciate the Cook slander. I think some of the things you said there are wrong. But when you're stacking him up against potential generational talent, Breece Hall, I'm not sure it's fair. And Breece Hall already looked really, really good week 1. Moving on, Josh, to the next category. You've got the mic drop here. We're going with Mike Evans versus Chicago, or Mike Williams at Tennessee. Mike Evans did get into the end zone last week. Mike Williams did get into the head zone with a concussion. Josh, who do you like between Mike and Mike this week?
See, so Mike Williams, I never saw as showing up as questionable. Has he cleared the concussion protocol?
I've never seen an injury designation. I've got him on multiple teams. As far as I can tell, he's good to go. I don't see any injury designation.
All right. So if he is if for whatever reason he pops up, we should toss in a contingency Mike with Michael Thomas. Even though it's not technically a Mike, that's why he's contingent. So if Mike Williams doesn't play, just consider Mike Thomas as kind of that alternative. So I don't know if that would change anything, but I am going to go and I'm going to say Mike Williams as my number 1 option here. Mike Evans, he had a great game last week. Chicago's defense is porous, but they are a run-first offense, and so I think that they're going to have an easier time running the ball this week. After all of the reports of literally just they were shell-shocked, had no idea why they suck so bad when all they had to do was watch last year and realize they're kind of bad. I think that they got invested in those headlines in this offseason. They probably watched too much Adam Rank saying that they're the best team in the NFL. Justin Fields is not an MVP. That team is not a Super Bowl contender, as much as the media tried to paint them that way. So I'm going to go Mike Williams at Tennessee just because I feel like that game could be more of a shootout. Plus, Tennessee apparently has an allergic reaction to the football. And so Tannehill does like to give the ball away.
I like your analysis there, Josh. I mean, it's no secret that I've been high on the Chargers for years and years, brother. But I mean, even though, Mike Williams did take, 77% of the snaps last week before he got his concussion. So, he was in most of the game and he only was able to put up, 4 receptions, 45 yards on 5 targets. And that was a offensive shootout without question. Whereas Mike Evans, he started a bit slow, ended up with 10 targets, 6 receptions, got in the end zone. I think I think Evans is the safer option this week. I think Williams might have the higher ceiling. I think Evans has the higher floor. So if that's, depending on what kind of matchup you're looking at, if you're just trying to get the dub or if you're trying to swing for the fences here, I know it's only week 2. But I think I would go with Mike Evans this week just because we've already saw, I genuinely love Mike Williams as a player. I watch kind of all the Los Angeles Chargers social media. Mike Williams always seems like a super nice guy, and I don't think he's necessarily just putting on for the camera. I can't pretend to actually know him, so maybe he is a fucking dirtbag. I can't tell for sure. But everything I see, Mike Williams seems like a real genuine nice guy, and so I'm rooting for him as a human. I'm rooting for him as a person, but he gets hurt every year, dude. I can't believe it. I'm going
Thanks
Mike
for the
Evans.
First. That is a fair assessment. I do think that he's going to have more volume this week since Eckler is out. And so no Eckler, it frees up 20 targets a game. So that's something something I'd take into consideration. So that's just kind of where I'm leaning on that one. So, but if Mike Williams doesn't play, I would definitely say Mike Evans over Michael Thomas.
Okay. And yeah, we're doing the thing where we don't need to come to consensus, right? So it's okay. We can disagree. You can take Williams. I can take Evans. Moving on, Josh, to the young buns. Almost everyone with any sort of fantasy expertise tries to always tell you, avoid the rookie tight ends. They don't know what they're doing. They all stink. Rookie tight ends stink. They take at least a year or two to get into their system. Well, Josh, I think kind of both Dalton Kincaid versus the Los Angeles Rams and Sam Laporta versus the Seattle Seahawks kind of proved last week that they seem like they're ready to go in their offenses. They're being used much more as receivers than maybe the more traditional Jim Kleinsasser type tight end role. But Dalton Kincaid and both Sam Laporta, I think, showed promising performances, if not, maybe not flashy fantasy performances, but promising performances week one. Who do you like this week? Dalton Kincaid versus the Raiders or Sam Laporta versus Seattle?
I'm going to go with Sam Laporta. They showed confidence him on third downs. Dalton Kincaid had some solid plays. He lined up as a wide receiver a couple times. So that is interesting. Josh Allen was shaky, and so we'll see how he rebounds from that. But as far as the young buns go, I'm gonna go with the Sam Laporta body.
All right. I mean, if you're looking at the tail of the tape here, they're both pretty similar. Dalton Kincaid had 80% of the snaps. Sam Laporta had 83% of the snaps. I do believe from watching the Thursday night game, I'm pretty sure I saw Sam Laporta lined up in the slot plenty as well. I don't know if he was ever out wide, but he wasn't always an inline tight end. Dalton Kincaid had 4 targets, 4 receptions. Sam Laporta had 5 targets, 5 receptions. Sam Laporta had 39 yards. Dalton Kincaid had 26 yards. So, I mean, their averages were within about 1.5 yards of each other. I think they're pretty similar. I don't think that either of these matchups are crazy. I don't think that Las Vegas versus Seattle scares me much. I currently have Sam Laporta on more rosters than I do Kincaid, so I'll just very biasly say Sam Laporta. But I think, to me, Josh, they're honestly very similar. Like, for whatever reason, if I had them both on a roster, I would probably genuinely flip a coin to try and decide between the two. I think they're extremely similar right now. But I'll ride with you and take Laporta if I'm forced into a choice.
All right, moving on. We have the dart throws, the players that had some success last week, maybe not.
A little flexual attraction.
Yeah, a little bit of maybe bounce back for some or continued success for others. We've got the dart throws. Khalil Herbert at Tampa Bay. We saw him, I believe, in the end zone after being the lead back in Chicago. Kyron Williams, I think he outsnapped Akers by a few. I
think it was like 33 to 30. So it was a hard split, and he did. Khalil, just a little correction. Herbert did not find the end zone, but Kyron Williams did find the end zone twice.
Okay, so but we know that Justin Fields doesn't like to throw the ball down the field, so his check down back maybe Khalil Herbert.
He did have 5 targets and 3 receptions. Yes.
So, yeah. And so Williams versus San Fran, that stout defense, that could be an interesting decision to play him. Then we've got the bounce back candidates for these dart throws. Or do you think Kadarius Toney is going to have a case of the slippery fingers at Jacksonville? Mahomes said he's going to have a little bit more faith in him, or he's still going to have faith in him. Toney, he deleted all his social media, so that's how things are getting serious. And then Kyle Pitts versus Green Bay. Do you think that him running around wide open is going to be something that Desmond Ridder notices, or do you think that he's still going to have a blind eye to the Pitts?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I certainly, not that I was expecting high things from Kyle Pitts at all, but obviously he was drafted 4th overall for a reason. The man has plenty of talent, and I saw some highlights last week of Kyle Pitts, doing some dirty things to defenders and being wide open, and Ridder was just in a different fucking solar system, dude. Ridder was just not looking his way at all. He was either tucking and running, or he was staring so hard to the side of the field that it didn't matter. This one's tough for me, Josh. I could understand people trying to say that Kyron Williams is fool's gold. He found the end zone twice, so his numbers are inflated. Otherwise, he would have had, 5 fantasy points from his 52 yards because he only had 2 targets and 0 reception, so no receiving production at all, so no additional PPR value. That said, I mean, I think I would still buy the Kyren Williams hype if I'm choosing between these 4. I'm probably between the 2 running backs, between Herbert and Williams. Herbert probably has the higher floor than Williams, so if you're looking for a little, especially in PPR formats, if you're looking for just a little bit of that safe flexual floor, he did have 5 targets, 3 receptions for 37 yards. That's where the majority of his points came from. I would probably go Kyren Williams. I would probably try and go for that boom performance in this scenario, whereas earlier I took the safe option. I would probably go Kyren Williams, but, I'm between the 2 running backs at least. What are you seeing anything different? Do you think Tony pops back, or have you lost all faith? Because he did have 5 targets and some really high-quality targets. He just could not catch them.
Yep, no, I'm going to say Kadarius Toney bounces back, mainly because I need him to try and secure somewhat of a obtainable chance of beating you in the Champions Branch Out League. And so that's going to be my pick there. But Kyren Williams is definitely, he's a boomer bust, I think, against that defense. Khalil Herbert would probably be my second choice. But Toney, I have a feeling Toney bounces back. They're going to try and develop or get him some plays to get his confidence. So I think Andy Reid's going to design some things, maybe some crazy cyclone twists and whatnot. But
yeah, I mean, if I had any faith in Tony, I think I'd ride with you. But I also have absolutely 0 Tony shares in fantasy, have absolutely 0% exposure. I'm on 10, 11, 12 fantasy teams, 0% exposure. So I have absolutely 0 bias, and I have no reason to cheer for Tony from that perspective. So I just can't ride with you. He's just never been reliable, and that's why I didn't touch him, and I haven't touched him.
Yeah, we'll find out if he's a reliable receiver this week, I think, depending on his usage, if he sees the field more. Obviously, if Kelsey comes back, if Kelsey's not on a pitch count, it's going to limit his options because Mahomes is going to turn to his safety net. Otherwise, maybe this is the week we find out if he's a big fat Tony.
Could be. And quick, a word from our sponsors. Josh, when you think of jingles, when you think of songs, what are some of the most legendary jingles or songs you can think of? Obviously, you and I have a beautiful love and affliction for Every Time We Touch by Cascada, one of the most beautiful songs to ever exist. But let's say you're looking for maybe, not all audio is songs. Maybe you're looking for a bit of a jingle, Josh. When you think of some of the best jingles from ads or the radio, or from TV ads or the radio or whatever, what do you think are some of the best jingles out there?
Well, when it comes to jingles, you want something that gets stuck in your head, something that no matter how annoying, it's still in your head because that's what that's what they want. They want that kind of subliminal in the back of your mind. So obviously Meow Mix, Please Deliver is up there, top 5. But then we've got 1-800 Cars for Kids. That jingle, that's a pretty annoying one that gets stuck in your head. And then one that's taken the world by storm is Whopper, Bacon Whopper. That's definitely a top one in my mind. So those 3 right there. Some of the unsung ones that are out there, we've got the Oscar Mayer Franks. That's a good one. Jingles. I think we need a separate jingle podcast if we're going to go through them all. But yeah, so those are just some of the ones that come to my mind.
No, I mean, Josh, that is a beautiful. You definitely did way more a jingle analysis than I expected you to. Maybe you're a man who has not paid every single service everywhere to eliminate commercials like I have, because I've certainly tried my best to get all those dang ads out of my face. But, not everyone can do that. Not everyone has a position. Realistically, I should probably cut back on some of my subscriptions. But the whole reason I bring this up, Josh, is because today's sponsor of the show is Basement Studio Productions, and they are known for putting out bangers of songs. If you want them to recreate or create their own, equivalent of Cascada Every Time We Touch, dude, I'm sure Walters could put something together like that. If you want him to put together a beautiful jingle for your company, me. Walters has put together some sounders for us. I've stopped playing them this year just because I try and keep this show somewhat fresh. We like to rebrand and reface and not use everything the same year to year. But obviously, everyone who listened to the show the entirety of last year knows Walters can put together a banger of a little jingle, a little intro, a little stinger, whatever you want to call it. So if you're looking for some audio productions, the way we push Levi Oki illustration for all the beautiful people's art, I mean, all the other podcasts are using Levi Oki these days. They know what beautiful art. For some audio, I'd consider Basement Studio Productions. I'd consider Mr. Ryan Walters for all your audio needs. Josh, with that said, today's sponsor has given us a start sit, and I think we should take another 30 minutes just to make sure this man feels special in our analysis. But the start sit we have been given... No, we're not doing that. Sorry, Walters. The start sit we have been given to ponder is Romeo Doubs or Michael Thomas. Obviously, Josh, Romeo Doubs lit it up last week against Chicago, even with a sub 50% snap share. Christian Watson was out. And Michael Thomas, 8 targets last week. Never got in the end zone, but, I'd say both players looked maybe better than maybe some people thought or expected, especially Romeo Doubs was coming in questionable. Who do you like between Doubs and Thomas this week?
Yeah, I think Doubs is. I like Doubs more than Thomas, mainly because I think that his snap count, his pitch count last week did limit him a little bit, but he found the end zone. That back shoulder in the fade in the end zone was a thing of beauty, and so I think that his rapport with Love is pretty solid. Watson is likely going to be out again. I think.
Thought he was already ruled out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Jones is, like I said earlier, out or very, very questionable. And so that just frees up more targets because it does sound like he has a little bit more of, or he's going to be on less of a pitch count this week. So I do like the Doubs. And so that's going to be where I lean. Michael Thomas, though, he did have a solid share last week, but with Olave, in the mix, Juwan Johnson and Rashid Jachatid or whatever his name is.
That's me?
Another. I sneezed. I don't know. I'm going to lean Doubs on this one, and it may be homerism, but I'm leaning Doubs.
I mean, it's fair. I mean, Doubs looked really good. He certainly had the better fantasy performance last week. 5 targets, 4 receptions. Did not have great. He only had 26 yards, so not a lot of, production through the air necessarily, but 2 touchdowns. I mean, touchdowns are the make or break for fantasy players. That's what separates the men from the boys. So if he's getting looks in the end zone, that's a player you definitely want to have in your team. And especially with 26 yards, it's not like either of these plays were like fluke plays where a bunch of defenders missed or this or that, and he ran 80 yards down the field to get a score. Nah, man. Only 26 yards and 2 touchdowns, so I think Doubs is worthy a look. But Michael Thomas, again, check out the tail of the tape here. 80% snap share, 8 targets, 5 receptions, 61 yards, so that's a 12.2 yard per catch average. I think, Josh, and they're playing Carolina, who I think J.C. Horn just went on IR. I'm taking Michael Thomas, I think. Derek Carr proved he's not washed yet. He's not looking like Tannehill out there. I'm going Michael Thomas. I think Romeo Doubs will probably see a positive regression in his yardage, only 26, but I don't think he's going to get 2 touchdowns again, even with Watson out. So I'm taking Michael Thomas on this one.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment. So I hope that we helped you out, Walters. We gave you some things to chew on. Whichever player you go with, I'm going to just go ahead and send positive vibes your way and say that it is going to be a 5 to 10 point performance. Go ahead.
Yeah, we didn't get like a scoring rules or anything. In PPR, it might be a bit different because we saw more targets go the way of Michael Thomas. But moving on, Josh, we're almost out of here. But let's quick give the people a FanDuel bust of the week. I have mine ready. I'm not sure if you got yours ready off screen. I see it's not in the notes, but I can go with mine first, assuming you're not ready, Josh. We appreciate everyone who plays in the pod, the Hood Pod play along. It's not too late to participate. You still have, as of right now, 17 attempts to put together your best 5 scores. So lots of weeks left, lots of opportunities opportunity. It's only $10 to play. Reach out to me or just click the link in the Discord or copy and paste the link and put it in a browser. I heard that's kind of the workaround some people had to use. But we have 14 players right now, so that puts the prize pool at $130. But yeah, still, we can get up to 20. So if 6 more people want to play, we could get a little bit of a bigger prize pool. That said, Josh, the Cincinnati Bengals really scared me last week, and I really don't know what to expect. It looked like Burrow wasn't fully healthy for anyone who kind of watched that game back. So for that reason, not because I don't believe this player is extremely talented, not that I don't believe this team is going to completely turn it around, but for this week, Josh, my FanDuel bust of the week is going to be Jamar Chase. He'd cost you about $8,400, and I don't know what to think about the Cincinnati Bengals right now. So for me, I'm a man who likes to run away sometimes. I'm not buying low. I'm not buying the dip. I think they could be going down still. I don't think, they've started slow the last couple of years, so they'll figure it out. They'll be in the playoffs, don't get me wrong. But my bust of the week, Josh, is Jamar Chase for $8,400. I've given you at least a minute and a half to look if you haven't looked already. Josh, who's your FanDuel bust of the week?
Well, I disagree with that assessment because he's in my lineup right now. But I'm going to go with somebody who's on the same team, and I'm going to go with Joey Mixon. Joe Mixon, he had a solid year a couple years ago. Last year was a down year. He's going up against a solid defense in Baltimore. He's 7,200, so he's not going to be breaking a bank. He's not up there in that 80 range. But I do think that Joe Mixon is somebody that last week in FanDuel, he put up 8.8. So, take what you will. That's more than some of the running backs, but I do think that his price point isn't worth it going up against that defense.
All right. Appreciate that. Those are your FanDuel busts of the week. Josh, before we get out of here, we are at 30 minutes, but, we're a little bit loosey-goosey with that. A minute or two extra isn't a big deal. I know you got a life to get to, but anything you're looking forward to this Sunday? Obviously, the Packers looked hot. Any waiver wire ads you were happy to get this week? Anything else you want to hit with the people for this Sunday of football before we get out of here? A little weekly preview.
Well, I do want to say that I have a little bit of a gripe with Sleeper right now. So I had been making some adjustments with Sleeper, and I think that there was some connection issues on one of the ends. I'm going to guess theirs because my ESPN league was able to make some changes. And so on Thursday, prior to leaving to softball, so at around 7 o'clock when I left, so 15 minutes prior to game time, I was making some adjustments, and I actually subbed Jordan Addison in the Butt, Sweat, and Beers League and took out Christian Kirk. And obviously we know Jordan Addison had like 80 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches. So, 14 points in fantasy. And I was like, oh, that's pretty solid. And then I go check my lineup. He's still on the bench.
Ooh, tough, dude.
So it didn't get saved, apparently. And then I had also put in a bet on Sleeper. So last week I went 1 for 1 on my bets. And then this week I would have gone 1 for 1 because I hit the over on Devonta Smith yards, which was set at like 68. And then I hit the over on Addison yards, which was set at 38. And both of them went over in the first half. And I went to go check my bank, getting ready to roll around in the coins, and I didn't go through. So something happened, Sleeper. I don't know if it was on your end, if it was on my end, or what, but I'm going to blame you. Fix it.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Especially because there's never been a save option on Sleeper. It's not like you make an adjustment, then you have to click save. It's like usually when you make that roster change, it's locked in immediately. So I don't know. I don't think I've ever had an issue like that, but that's interesting. I'm sorry to hear that, brother. But you've already got a win. You kicked my ass last week. So, I mean, if you lose this week, fuck you. I guess the only thing I'll say about the storylines, the Vikings have already played, but I'm going to talk about them for a second. It's not necessarily about Sunday, but I try my very best to try and keep an even keel or keep an unbiased Vikings view. I've been coming in really low on the Vikings to start the season because, even the most rational homers, like, we went 13-4 last year. We're coming back. Vikings are going to do things. I'm like, guys, we were easily a 9-7 team last year, okay? We were not as good as our record. So I've been trying to bring people back. I knew we were going to lose on Thursday, even if Vikings tried to make it look like it was close. The game was never as close as it looked, okay? Vikings lost. That said, now we've got the mini bye. Vikings have a chance to do a little bit of a self-scout very early in the season. So I think if there was ever a chance for the Vikings to turn a couple things around, these couple extra days, this is when the Vikings could start to figure things out. I'm not saying they're going to. I'm not going to say the Vikings are going on to win 10-plus games this season. I've been low on the Vikings from the preseason. But if there was ever an opportunity for them to kind of right the ship and go on to have a better season, it's right now. The Vikings have to be making those moves in these couple extra days off, and we'll see. But yeah, the Vikings are... all that's to say is I'm trying to pump up the Vikings now. I've been very low on the Vikings, telling everyone, calm down, relax, we're not that good. And I've been proven to be right. But now... Vikings, this is your chance. Use the mini buy to turn things around. Hopefully, we'll see. Who knows? The Vikings might just stink this year, but that happens with some teams sometimes. Josh, go ahead and let the people know how much we appreciate Walters before we go for sponsoring today's show, and then we'll get the hell out of here.
Thanks, Walters. And I'm going to go ahead and add to the whole mix on the Vikings. Is Justin Jefferson allergic to the end zone? 5 touchdowns last season, and then this time he gets close and he coughed up the football. I
think he might have been scared of it. That's why he didn't want to touch it himself. Instead, he kind of threw the ball at the end zone, hoping it would count. But then he learned the rules don't really allow that.
Yep. No. Mm-hmm. So no, it's just, to me, it's bonkers. If he could, even just put up 3 or 4 more touchdowns each season, yeah, all time. But he's still in that conversation, but the touchdowns is lacking.
I think JJ will be fine. But all right, Josh, go ahead and hit your Go Packers, and then we will get the hell out of here. We went a little bit over. We'll clean it up next week, but we did have a show sponsor unexpectedly, so we had to give Basement Studio Productions some love. Thank you again, Walters, for sponsoring the show literally seconds before we went on the air, but I hope you got your money's worth. If not, we'll come back next week. Josh, say it so we can leave.
Go Packers! Go Packers.
Fire in your gut. Better light the fire pretty fast.
Josh, say some things.
Some things make me smile. Some things make me frown. Some things make me not do much,